You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the March 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting for the Municipal District of St. Stephen. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with a presentation from resident David Whittingham regarding the Tourism Accommodation Levy bylaw. Under new business, the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission will provide a community safety update, and Councillor Heislip will provide an update on the world's oldest basketball court. Finally, committee will discuss tariffs and the Housing Accelerator Fund, and will review drafts of the Medical Professional Recruitment Policy and the Non-Union Full-Time Employee Vacation Policy. Now let's join committee in the Moosehead Room at the Garceland Civic Centre in St. Stephen.
Call to order. Welcome everyone to the Municipal District of St. Stephen Committee of the Whole meeting. The agenda before you for Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on the ancestral unceded territory of the Passamaquoddy peoples. And also we'll take a mover and seconder for the agenda of the Committee of the Whole meeting, March 12th, 2025, be approved. Councillor Eastman, Councillor Wright, any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you for the approval. Any conflicts of interest this evening? Seeing none. Mover and seconder for the proposed resolution that the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held January 15th, 2025 be approved as presented. So moved. Deputy Mayor Wheaton, Councillor Harding. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have a public delegations. Dave Whittingham. The podium's yours, sir. Tourism Accommodation Levy Bylaw discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak on this. The Tourism Accommodation Levy and the bylaw that may come from that. Just a brief background. My name's David Whittingham. I live in Ward 2 in town. I operate a small two-bedroom B&B guest house on Union Street on the corner of Union and Cove. This will be, I guess, 5th or 6th year. Prior to that, I operated Blair House Inn Bed and Breakfast on Prince William Street for 22 seasons. And prior to that, I was manager of Loon Bay Lodge on the upper, and it was my parents' B&B before that, so 10 years before that. And prior to Blair House, I was at managed Loon Bay Lodge up on the river. And while at Blair House, I did and was involved with the CCRTA, the Charlotte Coastal Region Tourism Association, and was on their board and participated in a voluntary tourism accommodation levy, which they, at the time, I think they called a destination marketing fee or fund. And so participated in that. That was instituted and operated by the CCRTA. And actually the driving force behind that and bringing that voluntary levy on was the general manager at the Algonquin. So it was coming from there, and then other properties participated. I was the only one from St. Stephen. The others were from several from St. Andrews, and also the Granite Town Hotel in St. George. And one of the things, outcomes of that is I didn't get any hassle from guests, questioning the that fee was actually 2%. What's being proposed now and what the province allows is up to 3.5% tourism levy. But I never had any hassle. It was maybe like a handful over that all those years, but those same people were questioning if they paid cash. But could I forget about the HST too? So it wasn't a big deal, because one of the things you find, and if you've traveled to any of our cities in our province, or you go to the bigger centres, on your hotel bill or inn bill, you're going to see a tourism levy there. Like, it's almost impossible not to find it now, whether it's called a resort fee or if it's a convention fee at a bigger property or whatever. It's something to that degree. And And there was some questions have brought up about, the difficulty, the paperwork of doing it. Well, if it's coordinated with every quarter with HST, it's just one other line item. I never found it to be a big deal to deal with this additional levy, which was then put into a pool of money to be used. In that case, with the CCRT, it was a regional approach, but this would be for our municipality, for MDSS. So what are some of the benefits of the revenue from the tourism accommodation levy? Well, it's local tourism and promotion and marketing, existing festivals, potentially new ones, events, maybe even coordinating and matching with what Tourism New Brunswick is doing, or even the Regional Service Commission with their regional approach to tourism promotion. And it benefits restaurants and attractions, even though they're not paying into it, and also stores as well. The other, besides promotion and marketing, would be things like infrastructure. I just threw down, could be signage, improved signage, tourism-related signage. Could be washrooms, could be benches, in parks or whatever, or along walkways. And it could be, depending on the pool of money, you could have big opportunities to improve the infrastructure of our tourism product in our region, in our community. The third item is the Regional Service Commission annual fee, which goes towards the regional tourism promotion. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But one of the things that this levy does, it allows tourism-related things to happen, either promotionally or infrastructure, without depending or putting a strain on all the residents and businesses in our community. It's new money that's coming in because it's paid by the tourists visiting our area, and it's not a burden on the businesses collecting it. It's just money in, money out. As I say, just a little bit of paperwork when at the same time you're doing your HST every quarter. Going back to the Regional Service Commission, Hollis Bartlett, presented to council, I think it was back in maybe October or sometime, about looking at the budget and identified what MDSS was going to be responsible for. And in the 2025 budget, our component the levy that's going to be the Regional Service Commission is going to charge to us is $40,888. And if we don't have this levy, then that's going to come out of the property taxes, some other source, some existing source. Not the levy is new money, potentially new money. Otherwise, it's going to come out of all of our property taxes, businesses and residents throughout the community. And it's not just property owners like homeowners, tenants, because the property taxes are paid by the landlords, and that is eventually, is paid by the tenants. So everyone is affected by that, and that could be diverted if we did have this levy in place. So the question is, how much could be brought in from this levy? That's difficult to know. I know Councillor Greenlaw has looked into numbers as well, and I also looked at different places, on Airbnb, Verbo, Tourism New Brunswick site, BB Canada, anyway, a variety of sites, trying to get an idea how many properties are in our area, and maybe in the ballpark is 40. There's some duplication there, but I think we came up with sort of similar numbers independently, just looking around. And that's without having a big hotel, or even a moderate-sized hotel, or any hotel at this time. And that would make a big difference. It's hard to tell what these smaller independent properties, what that revenue could be, but maybe a bit more effort, we might be able to determine that in advance of bringing in the bylaw. But if there was a hotel, it probably could double the sort of revenue that could be coming in. Like if we had an 80-room, the previous property was looking at 80 rooms and 13 apartments. I think long-term accommodation was plan I saw. But even at 50% accommodation and say $150 a night, and 50% occupancy, sorry, did I say accommodation? I meant occupancy, over the year, around 365 days. That's sales in the range of just over $2 million, which a tourism accommodation levy would bring in over $76,000 potentially, and that's at a 50% occupancy level at a 150 room rate, which I don't think those are pretty conservative numbers, I believe, on a hotel, and if it was a single large hotel that was in our community. And I do believe that we should be implementing this, because I'm in favor of this levy. We should be bringing it in before we have a hotel built. And so it's in place. Because as I say, we still have that Regional Service Commission fee to be paying every year. And let's put the burden on new money coming in from tourism. Question is, who determines how the levy funds are spent? One option is that you have a committee of council made up of councillors and tourism operators. The other alternative, and I'm going to come to St. Andrews briefly, is have a separate entity. That could be driven by tourism operators. To get tourism operators' accommodations to buy into this, they have to have some sort of if they're burdened with the cost of it, then they should have some representation in there. So, I'm going to come to St. Andrews in a moment, but it could be Chamber of Commerce, possibly. What about, Future St. Stephen, a subcommittee of them or something that's tourism oriented. I am a little concerned if it was controlled exclusively by the council and administration. So, and also concerned about when it comes to how the money is spent, that it's not channeled all into MDS, staff wages and something. Obviously, some of it will be, but not all of it. If there's some event going on, then MDS staff are involved, then just like St. Andrews do, they can channel municipal staff wages towards an event or some festival or something. So I did speak to a tourism operator in St. Andrews prior to this, and I spoke to a representative in the town office in St. Andrews, and I briefly spoke to Hollis Bartlett at the RC, Regional Service Commission on one particular thing. But just an example of, they have about 100 to 110 operators, and those could be, well, the top end is the 200 rooms of the Algonquin Hotel to a small Airbnb that's just got one room. They didn't classify for an Airbnb had like 4 bedrooms. They didn't isolate that and create that 4. That was like one sort of unit is how they were doing the calculations. I did go online and look at their financials for 2023 and also their budget for 2025. And the revenue, so this is the tourism accommodation levy that came in. In 2023, they budgeted for $280,000, and it came in just under $500,000. So they underestimated that by $120,000 or something. In 2024, the numbers for last year, the revenue that came in from the levy was $558,000. So that's 3.5%. So you get an idea of what what the accommodation industry is worth to St. Andrews if you just find out what the 100, do the reverse math and figure out what 100% is on that. And what the town did, they've had their levy in place since 2020. The provincial government created this legislation that allowed the municipalities to do this levy, and so since 2020, and they went out and did an RFP, a request for proposal, for an organization to take it on, because the town didn't want to do it, is my understanding, and the obvious one was the Chamber of Commerce, and they set up a tourism promotion committee, subcommittee of that, which over those years has morphed into a separate registered organization, which is, you'll see it out there, Explore St. Andrews. It was just part of the chamber or a subcommittee, and was the face of tourism promotion in St. Andrews Explore. But now it's actually a legal entity in itself, and they have a paid executive director. They have 9 board members, but they also have 2 town ex officio members who are non-voting, but they do have an influence on what goes on. From what I understand, Chris Spears and Paul Nopper, excuse me. Is it? Okay. And those will be the 2 municipal ex officio on their board. And their board is made up of, quite high-flying. General manager of the Algonquin Hotel, the executive director of Ministers Island, a former executive director for the Huntsman, a small B&B operator who, prior to that, for 30-odd years, was involved with promotion of the Calgary Stampede. Trying to remember, there's a golfing, somebody who has extensive golf experience, not just the Algonquin, but across the country. Obviously, they have the big golf course there. And I'm trying to remember the others. But anyway, they have a strong background in tourism, even if they're not all accommodation, people. But one of the things they have to do, and this is how it comes back to the municipality, to the town, is that the Explore St. Andrews submits a budget and planned activities for the coming year, and also submit the past year, what they've done, what they've spent, and that has to be approved by town council, is how it was explained to me in St. Andrews. So with the money that comes in, as I say, they're looking at, this past year was $558,000. First off, they pay their Regional Service Commission fee. And surprisingly, and that's the reason I called the RCS to find out, St. Andrews' fee is lower than St. Stephen for the tourism promotion fee to the RCS. Ours is, what do I say, 40-odd thousand, just over 40,000, and St. Andrews is 35,711. So it's about $5,000 less. And what it explained to me is based on the whole, we're a bigger community, and it's based on all the property tax base. And that's why we pay more than St. Andrews, even for the tourism promotion. And then after that's paid, my understanding is then the third goes to the town. And that could be used for administration and also for infrastructure. For instance, it was explained to me that if you've been into St. Andrews, along the walkway, there's some new washrooms have been built, and also the partially payment, because they're used by residents and visitors. The washrooms right at the town hall are also being redone. And so some of that money that the town got from the tourism levy is going towards those types of things. But there's numerous other things too. And then the remaining 2/3 goes to Explore St. Andrews. To do what? And as I say, they choose what they want to do, and they come up with a plan and a budget, but it has to be okayed by the municipality, is my understanding from what I was told. How they found out, I asked how they found out how many properties they had, and a town staff person went out there and did the legwork to find out just how many properties. From, obviously, it's easy with the sort of established properties, whether it's the Algonquin, the Ross Mountain, the motels along the front street and such like. But picking out all the little independents, the Airbnbs and the cottages out in the rural areas and such like, was a bit more of a challenge. But there's about 100 to 110 properties in the St. Andrews area, and but the Algonquin is the big one. That may account for maybe 60% of everything. So when going back to St. Stephen, request for. You have to decide how you want to do that, but maybe it is possibly through the Chamber of Commerce or Future St. Stephen. I don't know, but something to consider. And that organization would have ex officio municipal representation, whether that's administrative staff, which seems to be the case in St. Andrews, or councillors. Anyway, just to conclude, I am in favour of seeing this levy coming in because I don't want my, retired next door neighbour or the single mother across the street with kids to have to take on the burden of the Regional Service Commission's fee that we have to pay. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I'm just going to go a little further with some of those comments. I just can't wait for the fact that I don't want to use the word burden, but to try and do tourism and try to keep up with infrastructure. And I don't just mean infrastructure for tourism, I mean infrastructure in general. Like all that stuff that we have to look after we have to take a piece of that right now for events and that. And exactly, it's out of town dollars, and to be able to just say yes, let's do that event with ease. It would be a tremendous goal for us to be able to play out here, and of course, the bill we have for our Regional Service Commission for that tourism, all that marketing happens out there. And no, you're exactly right. And a lot of that stuff that Jeff and I have been talking to St. Andrews about, so we knew a lot of those details. But I appreciate hearing it from a resident and a Airbnb-er, I guess, if that's whatever the word is for doing accommodations, because the win is for you. Because I also look at the hotel coming, and I'd like to get it implemented. We would like to get it implemented before that day happens, because they're going to be pushing us hard to put on more events. So the cost of events will go up, right? So it's like I said, you're dead on tonight. So, and I appreciate your words of encouragement. Yeah, Councillor.
So you saw my numbers, Dave, and
Yes.
and I did rough estimates, the same as you. Think I was pretty good about not duplicating anything. 150 nights is what I looked at for occupancy, and not counting the hotel, it was around 110,000 a year. So then you'd add the 60 or 70 on for the hotel, the potential of a couple $100,000 a year. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make one comment. I appreciate your support, David, of the proposed bylaw. I do think you're right. There's hardly any place you can go where that levy isn't on your bill. But when operators are wondering what's in it for them, I think the money that it will bring in that will allow more events to be sponsored is going to become a circular benefit where the more events we can have, the higher your occupancy rate is going to be and the more tourists you're going to have at your places of accommodation, because they're not going to stay away for the sake of that 3.5%. So there is something in it for each and every operator once it's up and running and those events can be done and the tourism infrastructure can be expanded.
Events, especially into the shoulder seasons, they just, it's not difficult filling, July, August, September, and parts of June as well. But if we can have events and stuff that fill the before that and afterwards, just like St. Andrews is doing, I was told, they're busy up until December. Pretty well, Christmas. And the slowest quarter is, January, February, March. But the other ones are pretty darn busy.
Okay, Councillor Rodas.
I know that one of the concerns we heard from the resident was the fact that if, he has a business that's outside in the more rural area, how can he see those tourism dollars, come back his way? But I actually think it's interesting when you think about a large sum of money like that, we actually could do unique events that are not actually situated right here in town, which is unique, but also I wonder about that. I know St. Andrews, it's kind of congested into the downtown core. That's the only thing I would worry about, is just people feeling like it's equitably spread out, because, a lot of our events tend to be, located centrally in the community, and it will just, but it also provides an opportunity to think outside of the box and say, you know, how can we do an event in a rural area? Like if we wanted to do something on the beach at the Oak Bay campground, then why could we not? And I think it's great. After listening to you tonight, I feel like you might have sold me, David, but you did your research. And it is unique because we often hear from, when people aren't used to a new levy like this, there's fear involved. So when you come and you explain and talk about the pros to it, but I would encourage you to have those conversations in community too, because it's helpful when one tourism operator speaks to another, because coming from a counselor to a tourism operator, but coming from one to another, I think the perception is different, right? So it was really helpful and super knowledgeable tonight, everything you provided.
One of the things I didn't mention, but Councillor Greenlaw, is, maybe if we go forward with this, is putting a package together and getting it sent out to all the accommodation, roofed and camping accommodations, and then from that having a meeting, and for those that may be away, having by Skype, type it. Does Skype exist anymore? But you know what I mean. And just flush it out. Ask these these questions and answer these questions, and hopefully get people on board.
Yeah, go ahead, Emily. You got a follow-up.
And the other thing you mentioned when you talk about the structure of the board, I actually prefer that idea of having a subcommittee that turns into a board, because if you have the board, you have the representation anyway of the tourism directors that are located in rural and urban areas. So you have enough diversity at the table anyway that no decision is going to be inequitable if you have all those voices. So I like that idea too, I like that structure.
I'm going to let Brian, I'll let you talk in a second. I just want to follow up on what Emily was talking or worrying about the rural piece, for a campground that's out five miles out. They don't all just stay right there. They still come into town for events too. So they'll be able to, but we'll also be able to have representation on the board that we can help with events out there as well. I could see that. But anyway, Brian?
Yeah, David, I appreciate what you've done with that study. It's kind of encouraging to see a independent, non-council member coming back with a report like that basically matches what Councillor Greenlaw put together. I was shocked, surprised at the figures that's come back. I thought it'd be in the tens of thousands maybe, but when you're talking hundreds of thousands, it's very important because that's a good income for us. So, well, Dave, thank you very much for your information. I just hope that some more of our people out there who's other things to do could come in with presentations like that. It sure would help our town. Thanks again.
And I'll just add one more thing, and we'll go on to the next topic. The other thing that is one of my concerns is, and it's a good concern, is when we do get the hotel, there's going to be some healthy competition out there. So you're going to want more stuff going on to bring others to make up for the loss in the revenue that the small businesses could see. So we got to look at that as well. But anyway, thank you. Okay. All right. So we're good on that. Thank you again. Next up is strategic incentives update, rebranding project proposal. Jeff.
Thank you, Your Worship. When we did our last SMART Goals session, one of the things that Council identified as a project was to consider a rebranding endeavor, community-based, getting out there, talking to people, seeing how MDSS might be different than the old town of St. Stephen. Celeste and I spent some time talking to some folks that are in this business, and we came across Haley here. I believe she may have presented at the Business Summit or an event like that in St. Andrews. And so we requested that she put together a full proposal for us. We were very impressed with both her and her proposal. So we're bringing it here to see if that goal is still a goal that council wants to pursue, and if there's desire to proceed with this project. If so, we can take it to council for formal adoption. But just trying to get through your list of tasks that you gave us, and so we've got this one to the table, and we're looking forward to your discussion.
Councillor Eastman.
Is there any way we can get the province to pay for this? They're part of the problem.
We did try that on the amalgamation, and a lot of things that were promised during amalgamation never did come to fruition, including HR help and a whole bunch of other things. We could take the time, if it was council's desire, to seek external funding, funding grant proposals. My fear in that would be by the time we got any kind of responses, your time on council would be running thin. And I think this is a conversation that really needs to, if we're going to do it and do it right, we need to start it in the near future so that we can make solid plans about how we're going to go forward. So I understand your point completely, but I think this is one that if we're going to do it, we're going to have to do it on our own.
Councilor Greenlaw.
So some of the benefits of this, though, this would align and probably help us with economic development as well, wouldn't it? It would improve our how people would perceive us and the brand and so on and so forth. So there's more advantages to it other than just the name, right? And yeah, so, and I've looked at what UMNB paid to rebrand their, when they merged, and that would be relatively small compared to this, and that was 10,000 for the UMNB branding. So this is in line, right? I don't have any issues with it. I think it's money well spent.
Should you make your comment right now? Yeah, listen to that 1 second.
Yeah, I think one of the big concerns, or one of the challenges that we have administratively, is St. Stephen, be it the town of St. Stephen, MDSS, we're struggling from, quite frankly, we have too many taglines. Are we the middle of everywhere? Are we chocolate town? Are we, and we're not fully leaning into any of them. There was a dream once, I think, of Chocolate Town being the sister city of Hershey, Pennsylvania. It didn't materialize for whatever reason. If we do this project and everybody that we talk to says that we need to lean into that, that gives you guys a strategy that you can look at building in. But maybe we need something new now that we're urban, rural, 50-50 basically, and maybe we're something different. And it'll help us. It'll help folks like our new future St. Stephen president, Rivers, in marketing, to have a common voice and a common approach to how we are going to market ourselves and our region. It'll help a board that gets set up under the tourism levy, if we do go down that road, to have everybody working in the same pathway and having one message and one identity going out. So I think that's, it'll certainly make our lives a lot easier as we're trying to, well, are we branding this as middle of everywhere? Are we branding this as Chocolate Town? Or, so it'll help, I think, on a lot of fronts and be a unifying thing that hopefully, and one of the Haley's goals is to bring the entire community behind one common identity and one common message, which is the most powerful way to go.
Councilor Cornish?
Yes, I'm very for this. If you can remember going back for that, several of us were on the original building the town of Municipal District of St. Stephen. This was one of the key factors that we wanted to get into, because the old St. Stephen is not the new Municipal District, and we haven't done much to change that. Yeah, I'm for this very, very much. We got to rebrand, and we've got to, that again, similar to what David put in, there's some people out there that probably got some ideas, call it brainstorming what you want, but we've got to change our image. We're not St. Stephen anymore. We're the Municipal District, and thank you for that.
Just hang on, Emily, just 1 sec. I do want to kind of follow up on that. I want to make sure, and then if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But the Municipal District of St. Stephen is not, I'll tell you what it is. It's a governing body for the whole district. There's still St. Stephen, there's still Mayfield, there's still Oak Bay. They're not losing, like all those places up there. Yeah, exactly. We can go on and on. But I know a lot of municipalities were challenged with that, and that never went away. We're a governing body, and if I can be corrected on what I just said, go ahead. But I think I'm correct, right? Yeah. Anyway, I'm pretty darn sure, but so we're not losing the Oak Bays, or Mayfield in your case. So I just want to make that clear. Is we're not changing the names of everyone's places so we get phone calls. Sorry, Emily. Councillor Harding.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Jeff full-heartedly, and I also agree that the middle of everywhere, whatever that was the stupidest thing that we ever did. And the chocolate town was back in the middle of everywhere. My God, what were we thinking? Anyway, yeah, I agree with Jeff, and I think that it should be, but it should be the whole area. For the MDSS, it should be for everybody. So, yes, I think that's a wonderful idea, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rodas.
Yeah, no, I agree with Councillor Harding there. It's an interesting tagline, but and I agree with Your Worship, just because of the fact that Municipal District of St. Stephen also doesn't sound super like enthralling. If we could, it would be very, very neat to have somebody look at our entire municipality and all the different pieces and be able to combine all those unique perspectives. I love the fact in her proposal she talks about community consultation, and I was impressed too because she has around 20 years of marketing experience, and some of the keynotes in here about introducing the new 1820 brand of Alexander Keith's and rebranding their marketing. I mean, and Swiss Chalet, and she's mentioning all these companies she worked for, but the irony is they're companies that I have personally noted and have seen a change on the outside looking in and thought, wow, their marketing's really great. Like Alexander Keith's kind of was going downhill in kind of a older gentleman's beer, but it went through this period where it was still accepted, Councillor Eastman, as an older gentleman's beer. However, they were able to also bring in a younger generation and mesh the two. So if we can find some way that we can do that as well, taking kind of all aspects of MDSS and packaging them into one brand, that's a hard thing to do, to take such a generational gap and bring the marketing so together, that cohesively. So I liked her background experience too, is what I'm saying. It's not somebody who's brand new to this. It's 20 years of senior marketing roles. So that makes me feel confident that the work will be great.
Actually, well put. Actually. Councillor Heislip.
He is smirking at me.
I'm going to mince my words like Mark did, but Councillor Harding did. But yeah, it's very confusing, the brand. We sat upstairs during the what was the review of the tourism, and then it was suggested to be the start of the Bay of Fundy, and then there was still this going on. Well, we already have an identity. We have Chocolate Town, and then we have the two identities. We have Middle of Everywhere too. So, but we're going to have to do some good communication to the public and make sure that everybody buys into this, because there was a lot of animosity upstairs when we were talking about it, and this guy had to change his whole strategy as far as tourism went, because he was, he says that sells, because he was doing the actual marketing, saying, okay, what sells, and that Bay of Fundy sells. That's where, because everybody hears that, they go, oh, they want to see the Bay of Fundy. I said, well, all you see here is a river when you come in town, so it doesn't really reflect our community, right? So we had a lot of conversations about that, and a lot of people some of them are still with it, and some of them are really adamant against it. So our communication has to be good, and we have to do a lot of consultation to get to that point. I think that it'd be comfortable with everybody in the town, right? So.
Thank you. Councillor Cornish.
Yeah, deja vu again, going around back 3.5, 4 years ago when we sat around the table and we had to come up with a name. Municipal District of St. Stephen. You can remember the number of weeks that we bounced that around. And they all shot down the Kingdom of Cornish and come up with MFD. But other than that, yeah, we do have some experience in there, and it's kind of an interesting thing to try and rename and stuff, but let's have some fun with it, and that fits in with David's a little bit too, but Mayfield could be changed a little bit, Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Our title is a mouthful. I struggle with that every time I'm getting interviewed, and it is a mouthful. But anyway, let's see what they come up with. I support. And it looks like I don't see anyone saying no here. So you got the nod.
We'll keep moving forward then.
Thank you. Good discussion, folks.
So is that budgeted? Did we have that budgeted for our strategic? Yeah, I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah, I did. I had to incorporate a budget for this project based on your strategic planning session.
Okay, all right, so next we'll start with the draft request for proposal for commercial real estate services. I like this too. So get that stuff on the market. Jeff?
Thank you, Your Worship. Another one of our SMART goals that Council put in front of staff was to divest ourselves of surplus properties. Mr. Henderson and I have been working diligently on finding the ones that are ready, are market ready. We have a good number of properties that are we believe are market ready. So we started trying to think through how we were going to best divest ourselves of those. And as I started trying to do some research on other ways other municipalities were handling these types of things, it occurred to me that from time to time we also acquire property. And so it would be good to have the expertise, under a retainer contract style of arrangement to help us do both sell and obtain property as we need. And so what's we've been put in front of you is a draft RFP for us to get, I think, to have a term relationship with a local, with a real estate agent with knowledge of our area, and bring that expertise into our tool belt, as it were. So if you want to bring it here we hadn't really talked about this approach, so I wanted to bring it to committee so you guys could discuss and debate this approach. And if you are interested in proceeding down this road, we can release the RFP in relatively short order, because it is, I believe, pretty well drafted at this point, and get that ball moving as well. So with that, I'll leave it to you.
Councillor Greenlaw?
Yeah, I think it's good that we get this moving. Just when we do actually go sell the properties, for instance, some of them are identified in the municipal plan, and they're commercial properties downtown. So would we be selling those with, conditions that there had to be a certain type of development on them within a certain time period, or would we just be selling them for market value?
Depends on the price, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's not my position to tell you what your policy is going to be on disposing of your own assets. But I think this is where this expertise comes to play, is to have someone sit down with us and look at what we've got, what our intentions are, and to draft those, whether we need a restricted covenant in place, whether we need other things, like to have that expertise sitting at the table, walking through these properties with us, saying, here's what we think we should put on the market for, here's how you handle if you have certain concerns about how it's developed, when it's developed. Bring that expertise to the table with us. I think that's really what this approach offers.
And I'd like to see it local if it's at all possible. I'd like to see local businesses get the opportunity at these. I know the RFP is open, but thank you.
The RFP is open, obviously, but there is criteria in there that they need to demonstrate their knowledge of our local market. So I think that certainly lends at least a half foot forward to those that are our local professionals.
So please, I'm looking for clarity. When you say local realtors or local buyers?
Both, actually. Realtors.
Okay, sorry. I was thinking the other way around. So, yeah, okay. But it is an RFP, so you still have to follow those rules. Councilor Eastman?
Yeah, I read this all over, and I agree. It's a great plan. The only thing I didn't see in here is what happens if we have a conflict of interest or an optics of conflict of interest within this. We have nothing in this whole thing.
Section 7 deals with the conflict of interest. Section 7 deals with the conflict of interest, and basically anybody who's putting a proposal in has to identify how they would handle that conflict. So we do ask them to think that through and provide us a plan on how they would deal with that. Just because, any small community, you're always going to have some kind of conflicts around the table. So we did try to contemplate that a bit, but we didn't necessarily want to absolutely exclude anybody. We'll give them the opportunity to make their case. So we did try to build that into the RFP.
All right. I think we're safe to move on. That looks good.
Just for clarity, are we satisfied with the draft that we can release it?
I am.
Because I can take that as direction.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Rose.
I have a question about the RSC, if we could get just an update, because I can't remember when we went over the municipal plan, if they actually laid out the certain buildings that were identified. Because I do have questions around that, like obviously in our downtown core, we know that there's commercial property there that would be a benefit to a developer. But sometimes, you know, sometimes it's good to also know what developers are interested in, because we may have developers working with Future St. Stephen who are interested in things that are not necessarily downtown. So I just would want clarity on that, just like Councillor Greenlaw said. How do we really identify truly as a municipality? And I know any realtor will have that expertise, but also for us, just with the inside knowledge that may be happening amongst Future St. Stephen of what could be upcoming, to ensure that we don't have any properties kind of outside of this downtown core that may be of interest, and make sure that we don't list them.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really what I'm getting to too. Yeah.
So as far as Future St. Stephen, the probably the best asset we now have is the new president is in place, and the new. We will be extending the offer for the president to join the department head meetings every week, or as frequently as he can fit it into his calendar, and that is where we have a clearinghouse of all that discussion, because when it comes to the land stuff, we have Alex at the table, we would have Rivers at the table, we'd have myself, and we hash all that stuff out in a closed room. So the whole reason that they're invited is to keep those kind of lines of communication going. So when the mayor and I met with Rivers originally, we extended that, that we would like to continue that tradition. So that would be my number one tool for making sure we're coordinated in that.
We're so big now.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't hear any nays, so again, thank you. Great work. Okay, next up, we've got the community safety update, and as you can see, or wait, did I miss one? No, okay, no, so they got the community safety update in here. I just received that like yesterday, or 2 days ago. I haven't had a chance to sit with the board and the RCMP with it. That happens in April, but I just wanted everyone here and everyone in the general public to see the quarterly report and review it as they wish. And yeah, Councilor Greenlaw?
Just it's good to see that it's up to date. Like, this is the last quarter, so we're caught up, and it's a little easier to read. I got some, we got to define what occurrences are, but anyway, it's good.
Thank you. Jeff?
Just while we're under the community safety update, it's not on your agenda, but wanted to give you an update on the community safety survey that council authorized us to proceed with. Just this afternoon, Celeste and I were going over the draft survey questions, making some modifications from the package prepared by the consulting firm. I don't want to change their work, because they've done this all over the country and it works well. But little things like, they admit references to public transit system and things like that. So we're trying to just clean up their questions. But we're expecting that to start rolling out in the very near future. We're already working on the social media and promotional campaign. Ms. Vest is hard at work getting those things ready. So that'll be coming out in the very, very near future. So that's, just wanted to give you the update while we were under the community safety portion.
Thank you. It's proof tonight that we're finally getting there, folks. I know I kept saying we'll get there, but look at the stuff that's falling out now. Like, it takes time. So anyway, I just want to show my appreciation. Oh, sorry. I thought you were just saying, yeah, I agree with you.
No, that's yeah. So that's great that's getting underway, and one of the things I'd like to see is to make sure that we get as big a cross-section as possible. So actually high school, when you look at multicultural associations and different age demographics, the whole thing, the better cross-section we get and the more people we get to respond to that survey, the better information we'll have to move forward.
All right. Okay, so next up is a tariff information update, and That's another thing I wanted, the council and the public to see. This has been shared with our local organizations too in the community, so they can put their support out to our local businesses. And it's what it is showing that there is support coming or available, I should say. As I said before, if there's anything that we have missed, please reach out and let us know, because I can pass that information on to the right people. I just wanted to make sure everyone was kind of up to date on what's going on with that. If there's any questions. Yeah.
I just honestly want to thank the whole government, honestly, for being so supportive in this time. I mean, they've been really communicative, and I see that they're really pushing to be supportive to our businesses. So I feel good about that. I was a little bit nervous on what our provincial response was going to look like, and it really does affect our municipality. I know we're really small, but we're sitting right on the border here, so it's a sensitive subject because we have a lot of businesses and relationships with Calais in the U.S., and I feel sad about the whole situation because I do feel that Calais and St. Stephen are one community, and so when this economic struggle is going on, it definitely makes me feel sad, even for the community of Calais and the reduction in border crossing and things like that. But I just want to put that out there. I'm happy our government is really supporting this, and also to let Calais know that we still support you, emotionally. We do care about the community. So it's a tough time for all of us, and I just think that needs to be acknowledged.
Yeah, that's the exact topic I've been speaking anytime I've been getting interviewed on that topic. And one thing I always share, it's a little easier for someone that's an hour away from a border to take this sort of a tough action, but we're looking our family and friends and our colleagues across it right in the eye. They're right amongst us, and it's a little different. That, yeah, we got to stand for our country 100%. They got to stand for their country 100%. But the only way we're going to get anywhere is somebody's got to feel it way above them, and that's the only way we're going to get it. That's the way it seems right now. Anyways, hopefully this goes away and we go into all our other problems. But anyways, Councilor Green, Cornish.
Close. Probably the first time I've complimented you in a long time, so I'll do it tonight. That the interview you gave on the air, you hit it on the nail, or nail on the head. I'm sorry, because we all have friends, relatives. And the way you expressed it, I've been expressing that myself too. And the first time it came out, I was, well, hell with that, I'm not going to go over, not going to help, whatever. But the thing about it is, we are linked from high school. We ran back and forth the bridges, and we're still doing it. And it's a damn shame, but it's not the American people. We're not going to get into that. I don't want to say his name. But the bottom line is, you did a good job, and we want to put that message out that Calais, Woodland, Princeton, St. George, St. Stephen, whatever, St. Andrews, so we're pretty close down here. Mm-hmm. So anyway, you did a good job. I hate to say that in front of it, but anyway, you did all right. Go to your head.
I just want to say you did compliment me not too long ago too. So, but so that same message. I'm also part of the Border Mayors Alliance across Canada, and very eye-opening. I've learned a lot about trade, but maybe we may be a small pea in the bucket, if that's the right word to use, in the whole scheme of things across Canada when I'm talking to the big wigs in Ontario. But no, yes, I'm literally sitting at the gateway to the Atlantic province between me and Woodstock, and we look after all the province, and the trade is phenomenal as it goes across here. So it is very concerning. But the other role that they gave us as mayors across the country is to go reach over to our counterparts and share our concerns. And their concerns, they've also formed alliances, but still not getting up there. But they're all concerned as well. We're aligned with them all across Canada. We're aligned. So it's just going to take some time. And anyway, just hopefully bear with us. But the biggest thing is I want people to know that the support's there. It's right here, all the links, and don't hesitate to call. And we'll get through this united. That's the biggest word. We got to say united. So thank you. Okay. Yeah, this is a negative one. Okay, next up we got the half two application, half number 2. So it's our second application, and it was turned down for the second time after all the work we put in. And I don't think any one of us that stepped up, I'm sure, none of us that stepped up and we had a chance to do it the second time, we just literally wasted our time. But anyway, it was turned down. I don't know if you got any more to add to that, Jeff or Councilor Wright?
I was just going to say, for those online and watching who may not understand what have to means, could you just
Okay, so it's a housing accelerator fund, and what bigger problem do we have right now than housing? So it's frustrating.
It was from the federal
Yeah, all the mayors in the region are totally frustrated that we went the extra effort and got turned down again. And I think it's political, but that's, go ahead, Wade.
No, this is very disappointing. I know the effort that went into this Housing Accelerator 2 application, and it was done really, really well. So it had nothing to do with the application. We'll leave it at that. But the other thing, Jeff, can you explain what it was we exactly asked for the money for, and how that might affect us in going forward, because we're not going to get this money to do that infrastructure work?
So we had a multifaceted approach to the HAF application. We had applied for around $5 million to do a number of things, one of which was to potentially set up a project similar to the 12 Neighbors project. We had looked at doing some servicing for the property beside the beacon, various things that we want, hopes and dreams. We had some development of some property that we thought we see as underdeveloped at this point. Thought we had a very strong case. As far as the implications, obviously some of those hopes and dreams projects are going to stay hopes and dreams on the list right now. The most direct one, it is the property beside the beacon that we own. We continue to work through it with our colleagues at RDC, finishing up the pre-construction work so that we can apply for the full construction money. Would have been nice to be able to stack those, obviously, but we're going to continue to work towards that end goal. We do have, we have developer interest in the site. We have I will say, I was one of the first ones to complain about GNB, but we've gotten great assistance from the GNB RDC reps on getting through this, and great assistance from our engineering consultants. We're just finishing off the final details of our report right now, and then we'll be applying for the construction money. So we're hopeful. Our everything we've heard back from our friends at RDC is that they like the project, and they funded the first half, the pre-engineering stuff. So we're hoping that we'll get construction money as well. But yeah, we wish we could have got better results from the federal government for sure.
You don't mind if I just want to kind of follow up, and that's probably what you want to do too, though. What's concerning to me is, and I see this working with many developers that I've worked with in my time, is when we develop in these rural areas, the end product, the assessment is lower than what would be in the cities, and to see them supporting this funding to the cities more than the rural areas, it just drives me crazy, because we need that little bit of an edge here, and we're not getting that help, and it's struggling. Anyway, it's just another offense, but like Jeff said, we're going to work our way through that and get that one off the ground. It's just going to, all the little wants and likes that we wanted, it just might have to stand back. But anyway, Councilor Wright, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to clarify, but Jeff did in his final sentence. I was just going to clarify that was a federal program that was made available and municipalities had to apply for. There was a limited pot, and they decided where that pot got divvied up. So I just wanted to clarify that was a federal thing and not a provincial thing that we had applied for. Not that it makes a difference, but people just need to know what we were looking for.
Councilor Wright.
I see a lot of these programs coming out, and some people are never successful getting any funding, and it's really frustrating. And I can imagine the people that work on these applications how frustrating it is. But just to say that 200 applications received and you weren't one of the successful ones is not a very good excuse for me to go on, right? I mean, give us a little bit more of an inkling of our understanding where we went wrong. If you say that nothing went wrong, that we just had to divvy it up, and who did the people that got it? I mean, who's the 200 other applications that got it, and how much money did they get? Yeah, I know I know it's political, but I mean it's like I've heard stories, and I'm running over Air Canada all around the province and doing presentations, and then nobody's successful in their application. So what's the problem here, right? I don't know what the solution, I mean, I know the solution, but it's in a different province than where we are. Right?
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. You can take it.
I'm gonna take it away again. All right. It is frustrating, and it's disheartening to. I don't know. Go ahead, Mark, or Councillor Harding. Go ahead.
Is this is a federal program?
Yes.
Is this comparable to the gas tax of years ago?
No.
No, because that was provincial, was it not? No?
Feds.
Yes?
Yes, feds. Federal gas tax.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Councillor Rodas.
Is that something that our MP can support us with in getting insight? And what is the piece in terms of how did we involve our MP in this process? And is there communication that happens? And could he provide some insight to us directly, as he is the direct link to the federal government? And just curious.
Yeah, certainly in HAF2, outreach was made to the MP. As far as why you were not selected, we administratively we get a little bit more feedback from some of the bureaucrats that evaluated things. I know Xander, who the housing specialist for the RSC, who did all the heavy lifting on these applications. He does have those contacts and can get some feedback. Whether or not it's going to be satisfactory to us, it remains to be seen. But we do, between HAF1 and HAF2, there was a lot of conversations with the bureaucrats. There were sessions about how to improve your application there, and we partook in all of that. And we adjusted our applications based on all those recommendations. As I say, I'm not in the position to say what part is political and what's not, but certainly powers that our politicians can certainly feel free to reach out to the federal politicians to ask those questions.
So I will share. All the mayors in the region are putting together a letter and signing it and sending it away to wherever it goes to look. Anyways, maybe it may carry enough weight that they may at least give us the next one. Yeah. What's discouraging is the fact that they turned us down the first time. They led us to believe that if we did it again, instead of just saying, just stop, because that took a lot of time and effort by many people to do that. We could have put our efforts where it needed, but we focused on making it better, but really that wasn't what it was all about. But I'm going to stop being a meanie to the politicians. So. All right. We'll move on and try harder next time, I guess, or got to go shake the right hand or something. All right. Next up, Conserve the Court. Oldest basketball court update monthly by Councillor Heislip.
Yeah, we don't have anything in the package this month. We just had our quarterly meeting last night, and things are just, I can only say that things are just moving ahead, and there's a lot of fundraising that's going on, and I'm just reading, I don't know what I'm allowed to say or anything, so I'm just putting it at that. So if you have any questions directly to me, then no problem, and I'm sure there'll be something in the package next month updating what we have. But there's been a substantial amount of fundraising and a lot of fundraising, a lot of awareness going on, and there's been different, like I think Frank McKenna had something in Ontario that introduced the project, and a lot of people are getting excited about it because there's no existing Hall of Fame for basketball, and this could be the first place in Canada, right? And there is thoughts of having a hall somewhere, but that could be years down the road. So this might be the first venue that you could see. So a lot of people are getting excited about it in the Toronto area and Ontario area. So, and with the diversity in our group, it seems to be stretched all the way across Canada. So, just hold on to your seats, everybody. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
From the administrative side. Just got an email, I think yesterday, from Mr. Otto. Each side of our legal folks are actively working away at the land transfer documents that allow us to transfer the building over to Canada First. We're getting through some restricted covenant type stuff and some language because of the implications for CRA and charitable statuses, and there's some complicating features in there. It can be done. We just got to get the wording right to make sure nobody gets in any trouble here. because it was acquired through using charitable funds and things like that. And then once that's ready, we'll be ready to transfer the Conserve the Court monies that we're holding to Sport NB per Canada First request, and we can kind of step away from that project, other than being, supportive and everything that's in our MOU with that group. So, which would be administratively, we are happy to switch that relationship into that mode, as far as our facilities manager not having to worry about the building and paying bills for it and things like that. So, it's moving, but it's the legal folks are sorting out the all the interesting where the commas have to go in certain sentences type stuff. So, it's coming.
Perfection. Good news. Lots of good news. Okay. Next up is the draft medical professional recruitment policy. And before we get rolling, I'd just like to say to Jeff, great job. Very well laid out. It's easy to understand. I'm looking forward to some support on this because it gives me the tools, or we the tools, when we're competing with other municipalities. I know our small group, I had Councillor Rodas and Deputy Mayor Wheaton on the recruitment side. They've already viewed this before we put it on the agenda, and they're both very happy with it. And we've heard some doctor recruiting professionals looking at it too. So anyway, is there anything more you want to add to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. I think some of the key features of this, the covering report, I tried to be very, very blunt in my position that we shouldn't have to do this. We are required. We need to do it in order to compete in the market, but we need to continue to put pressure on the provincial government to fix the healthcare system so that municipalities can stop spending taxpayer money that it should be going to roads and water and roads and sidewalks and programming and all that stuff on a mandate that doesn't belong to us. And I know we have a meeting this week that I'm really hoping we can reiterate that message to Minister of the Crown. But being that this is the nature of the game right now, I tried to, I did some research, I tried to put some stuff together that I thought if we're gonna go down this road, we need to really go down this road and be competitive. And I think this is what's proposed here is a generous incentive package for to bring in medical professionals, and I use that term because I didn't restrict this draft to specifically doctors. There are other medical professionals that we need to recruit to the area, so we've opened up the scope a little bit beyond just physicians. And the other key point here is that the way this was designed it was intentional to not set it up to poach from other municipalities in New Brunswick. Moving the problem from St. Stephen to Woodstock doesn't do us any good. Doesn't do us, the global us, any good. So we're trying to look at outside or new doctors coming out of school or whatever, but not to poach from our friends and colleagues across the province. And I think that was a really important point of this. At least it was for me when I was drafting it. But yeah, it's. I think I told you last time we met that I wanted a couple of weeks. I think I had it to the mayor in a couple of days. I was going away, and I knew this was important, and I wanted to make sure it was in your hands as early as possible. And I do think if we're going to consider going down this road, Your Worship and your committee, if you haven't already, I would strongly encourage you to share it with our friends at Horizon Health, get their thinking on it. I know all of you in your email have an email from a citizen who's in this field and has some commentary for you to consider. I happen to know because I get CC'd on the email. But yeah, it's a draft here for your consideration. It would require a budget amendment in order to activate it for this year. That can be done. As I've said, we're working on some other budget amendment documents that we're going to bring forward to you very shortly. But it is, I believe, that we can find the funds to do this in 2025 if you approve the policy.
Deputy Mayor, I'll get you next way.
Well, I believe that this is a really important thing that we can do for our community, and it includes everybody in the community, right? Everybody is at odds, so I really think that we need to approve this and hopefully get us in a better place.
Thank you. Councillor Greenlaw.
Yeah, so definitely the lack of primary health care in our communities had a detrimental effect on the health of the public. And I think this is a good thing, but can you just maybe explain, for instance, if we ended up, say, late this summer, we had 2 family physicians come in and 2 nurse practitioners come in, what would be the impact from a financial standpoint each year? You hate to have to do this, but it's, the chances of getting those professionals here without this is slim to none.
So, I mean, essentially what you're looking at for on the doctor side is you're looking at $25,000 commitment per year. Whether they're new or an established family physician, it that affects the length of those payments. Oh. And then with the nurse practitioners, you know, it's a lower incentive package there. Yeah, we're looking at roughly 5, depending on where they're situated and what their situation is. But so yeah, you're looking, you know, and 60,000. And like I say, as I said in my report, I would recommend that we set up a budget of $100,000 per annum, and then if it isn't expensed, we would slide it into a reserve, which actually fits the one of the goals of our new policy that Frank and I have been working on in relation to your reserves, and it would just be identified as that, so it could be used in a future year. But I think that's an important piece, is to always have those funds identified in the budget every year, until such time as either the province fixes their healthcare system, or we're fully staffed and our medical professionals are saying, you know, we can back this off.
Yeah, so what I want to do add to this is we are doing a service for our district, but we are going past our boundaries by doing this. We all know that. So that's why it isn't our responsibility, really. It is the provincial responsibility. But again, it's like everything else. I'm looking forward to this, and I know, I was going to say, Emily, Councilor Rodas had some really good feedback. And my only wish is that we get ourselves through this, get prepared, and try to get this passed as soon as possible, because there's some new docs, new health care professionals ready and willing to jump, and I'd love to see this go into action before they jump somewhere else, I guess. Councilor Green, I'll just hang on.
Just one last follow-up thing, the $100,000 that the Regional Service Commission has for recruitment activities, you know, we should consider that if there's anything else that gets thrown in the package, other than what we've got in this, maybe we can resource that. You know, if they want an extra month's rent or something or whatever. Yeah. Yeah,
and they will do things like that. It just won't be brick. Am I on? Yes, brick and mortar type things and sports cars. It's not just being funny. Sorry, Councilor Cornish.
This has been a kind of nice night tonight. Everybody's pleasant, and I hit my phone by accident, but that's okay. Anyway, thank you, Jeff, for that, because this is one of the latest ones we talked about. And I'm impressed with the crew, because we spent several hours discussing how we're going to go about this, brainstorming and everything else. It's a good-looking document, and I'm just going to say about the whole things tonight, a bunch of stuff seemed to come together tonight. So anyway, thanks, Jeff, for putting that together. It looks good, and yeah, I'm impressed.
Councilor Heislip.
I just found something interesting. I went to a healthcare professional because I had the cast taken off, and it's not a very good trend. I don't really like to see where it's going, but a lot of these medical professionals now are getting incentivized, and it was kind of neat to hear from them, actually. And then, you know, like, at one time, chiropractors, the private practice, you would make more money, you know, starting up your own practice, and they wouldn't go to hospitals and everything. But now they're getting incentivized, so they're actually making more monies at the the hospitals and the healthcare, provincial healthcare, than they would if they were going out to their, or it's comparable. And I don't like that trend though, because that's where we lose some of these businesses, and it's awful hard to, it's above our, I'm not say a pay grade, but everything's above our pay grade, but that, that's above us, and it's going to be difficult in the future if they don't get a handle on it, right?
Councillor Eastman, I think.
Is this, we looking at this package here, is this above and beyond any other thing? Like, do we provide a structure? Is the town going to be held accountable for providing a structure for a clinic or any of this stuff? Or is this just a kind of package just for an individual to work at Charlotte County Hospital?
In our area, yes. Yeah. I mean, of course, there's going to be, if you're talking like clinics and stuff like that, that could be a different discussion than we may be having. Yeah.
That's not what I'm getting at. That's going to be another expenditure on our plate.
Yeah. I'm hopeful that that's not going to be too difficult on that part of it. But the fact is, we can't build something and have no one come to it neither. And
if we build something for that activity and it doesn't come, we can also sell that and get our money back. Here you're giving money to incentivize people to come in. I get it, not a problem, and we do need the health care. But again, if we're going to get tagged on top of that, building a clinic or paying for a clinic or incentivizing a clinic, we got to look, the money we're going to pay out is it adds up.
No, it does. Oh, sorry. You're exactly right, and there's some good points, Earl. We do got to look at that, and even as the evening's going on here, and I'm thinking about, if we get into a good, comfortable area that we get our doctor emergency down to a dull roar, we maybe should start, like we were talking about putting that fund, but maybe we should start looking at scholarships too, and get some local talent and start building that base too. But I'm looking far ahead like I always do, but I'd like to get in that position. But sorry, Councillor Wright, you have a question.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sure most of our administration may follow a lot of the news, but CBC had a really interesting article from another town in another province that did non-monetary incentives, but it impacted the budget. But in the way they did it, that program setup is actually making money. It's kind of interesting to see, and it involved them having properties where they could have locums doctors and traveling nurses and nurse practitioners stay when they come and do their shifts, and it made them attractive, so that gave them an opportunity to showcase the town and what the town had to offer. They even had a dedicated person like to stock the fridge, to take them out to see the sights of the town, get them involved in community things, and it has been successful for them without giving a cash incentive package. And because of the way they've structured it, it's now a money-making venture for them. I shouldn't say it's a money-making venture, that's the wrong way to word it. It pays for itself and then some is probably a better way to say it. So there's all kinds of ways to be creative, but we got to start somewhere, and I'm with management. I think it's sad that we have to be in this position, but if we have to, I like what we're doing.
Councillor Rodas?
I'll speak to a few things too, just working behind the scenes. So I've spoken with, physicians and healthcare providers, and actually today one of the physicians I spoke to said he hadn't really heard about nurse practitioner incentives. So that's kind of interesting. I think this is something that would make us a bit unique, and that nurse practitioners typically follow where the physicians go. So if you have a few physicians, and really right now what we're trying to incentivize is locking at least 3 to 4 physicians in. But the purpose of it would be to lock them in through the financial gain, especially when you come out of school. A physician I spoke to said you can have up to $300,000 worth of debt. So even just seeing 125 there over 5 years, you think if I go give that community 5 years, then I could take $125,000 off my debt. So not only can we, bring them here, but we can also retain them through other measures. So I talked with the mayor and Deputy Mayor Wheaton about having a physician recruitment committee. So I've already spoken to some key healthcare professionals in community, somebody with Anglophone South, other physicians in our town. So basically and I actually had a call with the Chamber of Commerce president today just asking what they thought about, because I heard from an individual I work with that there was a community in Nova Scotia that she worked in where when they came, the Chamber would offer a package of like incentives from the businesses, like a 6-month gym membership or, a free sub and so really when they come, it's not only you're saying here's our incentive package, but we also want to connect you to our community. And if you need to call because, you want to get your kids in sports, then you call this individual. And so these physicians that are kind of already looking at St. Stephen, it's my understanding that they have a connection or they're interested, right? And so and it's the same thing goes with scholarships. If we can really incentivize them to not just take a 5-year package, but to become a part of our community, and that's the end goal, right? Because then when you keep them long term. But right now we're in a crisis state, so we really just need to get it off the ground and running, and we are competing. But the physician I spoke to said this was one of the most impressive incentive packages he has seen across the province. And that does make us unique. We have new grads coming out right now. I also found out today that the 1-a-day clinic happening at Charlotte County Hospital, the physician working in that clinic is seeing between 45 and 50 patients a day, 1 day a week. So if that doesn't speak to the need, and I work in healthcare, so I can tell you my entire staff, I mentioned this today, they were excited. Everyone is excited because there's a lot of missing pieces when you don't have anyone following care. And we have people going to the ER every day that I meet that have gone in for some sort of pain, gotten a CT scan in the new machine, and find out they have cancer, and they're on the last couple months of their life because they haven't had anyone following them up until this point. So it is a very real thing, and it affects community well-being. And I know from the outside looking in, I know that we may have a lot of people excited, but there could be some criticism around $125,000. But when it comes to community well-being and living here long-term, you can have everything a community can offer you so many different things, whether it's business or healthy schools. But if you don't have a doctor, you ultimately are going to have to go where you can get one. So we need to be that town. So that's my spiel. And if anyone's watching out there, if you're a new grad, I hope that you see this and you know that you have a council who's at least presenting you with an option. So we'll see what we can do to get it moving, hopefully.
Some of it might sound like Brian when I say this, but I want to thank you, Emily, for your work on that. Having your healthcare expertise has been very helpful. So I appreciate that piece. And it's been like, I have no idea when you start talking about healthcare. And I'm glad to have your flavor. Although I don't want to cross those lines too much more, but let's just get this emergency taken care of. And anyway, and yes, Deputy Mayor.
I guess Emily said it, just about all of it, but although we met before, like we get foreign doctors, and when we spoke to 2 doctors that are foreign, they were telling us about how, because they're foreigners to Canada, like for example, if they went to get a mortgage, buy a house, they had to wait 3 years. So like every one of us will look at a doctor and say, well, geez, they make a lot of money. They should be able to get a mortgage on a house or something, or a car or whatever. So even, and when they come from a different country too, like it's a lot for them to learn and work in the community. So I think it's going to be really important that we have a support in the community that we can show them around. For example, like I lived in China, and it was amazing what I didn't know, like from day to day. And, you needed people to show you around and what was going on. So, and we've had foreign doctors that, this is the first time that they've been out of their country. And so we need to be supportive, and that's a big, like I've learned so much just being on the committee, so I really want this to work. And I want us to have the doctors. Okay.
Okay, and I also want to say I appreciate your work too. Just laying it out. It's been phenomenal. So thank you. I was going to call you Deputy Mayor.
Maybe someday. No, the other thing I just want to quickly mention is even having this conversation in my workplace, one of the other allied health professionals said, you know, this is amazing that you're thinking about that side of it too, the community connection, because it's not just physicians we have coming here. We have speech language pathologists, social workers, physios, paramedics. And she mentioned to me, and if she's watching, you know, I can shout her out. Her name's Lisa, but she just said, you know, even as a new, you know, physio to the community, you're coming to a rural area where you as somebody who's grown up here, you already have your friends, you have your network, you know your people. So, you know, we make friends with the people we work with. But when we go home, we don't have that kind of extension, and it's it's difficult to do on your own, to find out the community events and make connections. So over time, sometimes that happens from the workplace. But we do have a lot of people who come to this community, work in these specialized positions, don't form those connections, and then when something comes up in St. John, they go. So I think it's something we should consider, you know, long term, not just for physicians, but really any healthcare professional who comes here. It's going to be helpful to have a committee of people that can connect them and say, you want to go to the gym with me, or why don't you join the chamber, or do you want to develop your own clinic? Like, we'll connect you with somebody who could talk to you about that. It's just important for us to think about, because it's come up even in the past week, and I chuckled and said, I never really thought about that. So I want to thank everyone for their feedback as well.
All right. Is everyone good to bring that forward to our next meeting? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, too. Okay. Next up, we got the draft non-union full-time employee vacation policy. Who's got that? You?
I'll start. This comes out of the work that Frank and I have been doing to clean up some things within our HR side of corporate services. And one of the things that we identified is, especially when it comes to the non-union staff and the senior managers of late, when they choose to retire or move on, they're taking with them a significant amount of owed money from vacation leave that's been banked for years and years and years, essentially using the vacation bank as an investment fund. We would like to clarify that practice with this policy, reduce that liability on the books, and encourage the staff to take the time. You know, and I have to tell Frank. I tell Frank here on Fridays to make sure he has a weekend, because he'll work through, let alone take vacation time. But it's important, and we don't want guys. Frank and Kev and Sean. These are all people that I need. I need them in a good place mentally and physically, and they'll out of their own work ethic, they will work forever. So we're trying to get a program where they're encouraged to take time off and refresh. We're also reducing our liability, and from an administrative point of view within the corporate services department that we're constantly trying to clean things up, we can stop tracking this stuff for as long as we have been. There was a lot of work going into figuring out whether a vacation day was from 2008 or from 2024. So we're cleaning that up as well through this approach. This is one step in one of the CAO office's goals for 2025 was an HR manual. This is the first step of a long journey that you're going to see a bunch of things coming to revamp our HR policy book. But I think that's all I've got. Frank, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I think there was an audit question this year when we were dealing with the 23 audit as to why our liability was so significant and why people weren't taking vacations. And I know that we have paid out over the last couple of years. I mean, our liability is fairly significant, and it keeps growing year to year. We've had at least 2 people over the last 2-3 years where we've had significant payouts. And it's difficult. I mean, one of the questions might be, well, why don't people just take their vacations? And that's a difficult question. I know even for myself, it's it's easy to say, yes, I'm gonna, I've got I get 3 weeks a year, and, you know, it's nice to be able to say you're gonna take that, but there's always the next project, and it's difficult, especially, you know, with everything that's going on, it's difficult sometimes to find the time to even do that. Plus to build up lots of what we call loo time, which is basically, you know, my weekends, and that sort of thing, where if I do take time off, then it's going against that anyway. The purpose of this policy is to, as Jeff said, is to encourage people to take it, but if they don't take it, not to build up the liability. So we will pay it out. And there's a section in here that basically says that, I mean, because people sometimes will be planning a trip, so they wouldn't necessarily want to take it because they want to build up that time so they can go to Scotland. And not necessarily going to do it in 2 weeks, they might want to take 4 weeks. So there is an allowance for this. It's kind of mirrored on what we're already doing with the union, and it's built into the collective agreement, so it's kind of mirrored on that. There's some unique allowances in there for the fact that for the staff that we're dealing with. But the idea here is that if people do want to bank a little bit of time, because yes, I'm going to be making a trip this year, then that allows for that. Otherwise, we're going to pay it out, and that keeps the liability down. But we still want to encourage people to actually take that time, and I've got to try harder myself.
Yeah, it's a fine balance there, because if you make it too easy to bank, then it gets banked, right? So and I'm one of those people too that I almost need to be forced to take vacation. And I mean, even like I took a vacation day today to deal with some town issues all day long. So I use I nickel and dime my vacation time to do it. But but I also don't get to bank anything. It just disappears if I don't use it. Did I see? Yes, Councilor Eastman.
I agree with the policy 100%. I went through this with the government. Same thing. I had banked 143 days as a corporal at a low rate. And when I took them, or when they asked for the payout, I took them as a warrant, which was a real high rate. So it really kills you. The only thing when I read this policy, the only thing I was asking is, how come you didn't make it more strenuous on saying, if you don't use it that year, we're going to pay you out for that time? And do it year by year, year by year.
Well, no, it's more to do with what, like Frank said, if you're planning, well, something like I did, I just came back from a trip in January, and so if I'm fortunate I have a fairly good vacation bank, but other employees don't get the same amount, but they might need to bank a week or 2 weeks to make that trip in January, that once in a lifetime trip to Africa or wherever they want to go. So we wanted to have the ability to carry over under an approved structure. So you have to request it, which is the same as the union can do. They can say, okay, otherwise, we will look at why and how much, and then, but just use it or pay it. We didn't want to take away that little bit of flexibility for, hey Jeff, I got this. My wife and I are doing this, and I just need another week, and can I carry that forward? So we left that door open just a smidge to allow those kind of things. Even in the union contract, it says that under normal circumstances it doesn't get carried over. So it has to be an exceptional circumstance to carry it. So we're looking to mirror that same kind of approach.
Oh, just hang on. Sorry, Councilor Greenlaw. Sorry.
Yeah, so I understand the concept. It's good that you're paying it out now instead of later on in the career where it's at a higher rate typically. But isn't this really an unfunded liability? Because, like, for instance, if you've got three weeks vacation, you take your 3 weeks vacation, your regular pay comes. But if you don't take any vacation, then it gets paid out a year later. That's 3 more weeks of pay that wasn't budgeted for. So it's actually an unfunded liability. So how many employees are we talking about? And I'm just trying to quantify it from a.
I think the first thing to sort of recognize is the fact that we do recognize that liability when it happens. So the differential would be the fact that we are going to be paying it out. If in the way it's been all along, we would be paying it out at a higher rate, but we have recognized that in the budget years that they relate to. So
there is a line item in the budget that talks about unused vacation.
The budget is actually is taking care of what's going to happen for that particular year. But if we end up paying out, that's already been funded in terms of the fact that it's coming from prior years' budgets. So it's just that we haven't paid it out. We show that liability in our records, and we expense it against the year that's there. There could be a differential because of the rate difference, but overall, we're not, if I have a $50,000 liability that's spilled out, maybe 10,000 or 20,000 of that might be from this year, but the other 30 from prior years, we've already recognized that 30,000 in our financial statements. It's, the only difference would be is the fact that if I'm paying it out at a little bit higher rate, that's unfunded. And that's going to come out of that budget, but the bulk of it would be from prior budgets. But it's still a cash flow issue. And you're still trying to, you know, over the last couple of years, we've had two situations where together they amount to about $140,000. And that's one of the things that we're trying to prevent. So yes, it may have come out from a prior statement, but it's still got to come up with cash.
Just a question, Jeff. In addition to the extra bank time, is there a policy on sick time that parallels that by any chance? I'll just explain. When I took early retirement, I didn't even realize that I didn't have I probably had bank time, but my sick time calculated for the 30-some years that I was employed, apparently I didn't take too much time for sick time, and I got paid for 6 months. So I was just asking the same question. I don't know if that applies here too, because some of that, it's almost like bank time. If you don't take the time, then it stays there, and when you retire, you get paid for it. Same as you, I think, the same thing. But a lot of people don't realize that, so.
If I can answer that question. Council does have a policy regarding sick time. The policy is actually silent on what happens, you know, on retirement. But that being said, it's been past practice not to pay that out for the management staff or for the non-union staff. Now, if you go back to the collective agreement, if you're looking at the union staff, they do get paid out sick time, you know, if they leave, but it's not been the practice for non-union staff.
Now, I just want to do, some firms I know, even here in town, you're allowed 3 sick days a year, period, that's it. After that, you're on your own. Does the town have the union involved in that? Do you have like 5 days, 6 days, or it's just sick time?
I don't have the number off the top of my head. I think it's like 18 days a year.
Day and a half a month.
Day and a half a month, yeah. So, you know, and that will build up. There is a maximum to that. I think it's around 210 days. So once you get over that, then it caps out. But again, and we have people that, I mean, that will use that, and hopefully they're using it properly. And that's what it's for. But we also have people that have built up and are sitting there at their 210, we'll say. Their 210, you know, I'm building up, and I can't remember the last time I took a sick day in this job or the prior one. So it happens. But on the other hand, like I said, the policy that's there right now is silent on what happens if somebody retires or somebody leaves.
Like 210 sick days, and you put that together, that's a fair amount of either money or pre-retirement leave once you get there.
Yeah, but it's not been treated that way. You know, with the non-union staff, it is with the collective agreement. But even then, it's not necessarily that case, because they have to be essentially at a stage where they would otherwise be pensionable, you know, be able to draw a pension. So somebody that leaves and they're not at that level, so they're in their 30s and they're in their 40s, then they don't go away with it either. So it is a bit complicated, but I don't think there's really been an issue for us in terms of the fact that, you know, that we've got these huge payouts that exist with the non-union staff or with the union staff for that matter. But it is there, and it is a liability.
Thank you. I think what Councillor Greenlaw was getting at is if I also have trouble taking vacation. My family will tell you that, so I can totally sympathize. But when I do take a vacation day, I just get my regular pay. If I don't take a vacation day that year, I get all that day's pay, plus I would have my however many number of work days that is over and above that would pay out. So when he's talking about an unfunded liability, I did work in another organization where it was, okay, if you don't take it and we're banking it, that has to be set aside in a separate fund so that there's not this big cash draw when somebody does take it. It becomes a funded liability that's separate in the books, so that it doesn't, if they don't take it, I understand what you're saying, where it's funded, you've allocated that as salary in the budget, but if they don't take their vacation days, it's actually more money because they've taken all their day's salary. Now they still get 3 extra weeks of pay because they've worked those 3 weeks. So I get what Wade is saying, and if we're allowing carryover, perhaps that should be a way that we look at it, so that when there's a payout, it's not a big hit on the cash flow in the year that it's deferred to.
Yeah, it is, to a degree, it is funded. We do have a retirement account, and it's got probably $500,000 sitting in it that never gets touched. We are required to fund to a certain level. I think when that was set up, we were actually maybe a little over what our requirement is. It's part of our actuarial review we have done every 3 years, so it works that in terms of what our expenditures are going to be. So in terms of the expenditure side, which is really what I was talking about, I mean, that is looked after, and like I said, we accrue it every year. In terms of the funding side, there is cash set aside that certainly we could use. We have to be careful with that because we have a certain requirement to keep that at a certain level. So if you draw that down too much, then we're just going to have to put it back. So it is funded to a degree, but we generally pay out of current operations in terms of cash.
Okay, Councillor Greenlaw.
And we're only talking, what, 4 employees maybe? How many?
Just a second. I've got, I opened it up and I had all kinds of numbers because I thought. So right now, I'm just looking at, and this is 23, but it's probably close to right now. So we had 14 non-union staff at the end of 23. Now, at least one of those people have retired. Yeah, so we'd be at 13 right now. So I think everybody else is still there.
Okay. Okay. I think I missed that hockey game anyway, so keep talking.
This is just a quick one to end on a light note. As somebody who works in palliative care with people who have terminal illnesses, take the vacation, because I hear that every single week. I work 30 years, I never took a day, and I wish I took a day. They get diagnosed right after they retire. So seriously, take the vacation. I mean, it shouldn't be a hard thing. You just look at your life and you say, well, I'm a warm body in a chair, a really good one. Because we super appreciate you, and you are more than just that. But yes, we'll get the audit done first. But take a vacation; you deserve it.
You remember Frank?
Yes. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. Not yet.
I gotta get this under control here because we're getting silly. We're getting tired and silly. All right. So thank you again for that one. And I know one councillor loves this one. I need a mover and seconder to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, wait.
What?
One more quick comment.
Oh, I just tease it. Go. Go.
Wait.
Just anybody that got one of the radon test kits, the radon test kits need to come back this week to the Civic Center. You can drop them off at the desk, and we want to get as many of them back as possible. So there's around 90 went out. We want to see 90 come back so we get a good, accurate indication of radon. Thank you.
All right, move for second to adjourn. Councillor Otis.
Councilor Harding.
Councillor Harding.
There you go.
All those in favor? Aye. None opposed. Motion adjourned.